Welcome to Peak Performance Perspectives with Mark Talukdar, where we dive deep into the essential ingredients for a great life: health, wealth, and relationships. Let me ask you, are you truly in tune with your emotions, or are they running the show? What if the secret to balance isn't in mastering life's chaos, but in mastering our own energy? What if the path to harmony lies in something as simple as taking off the apron or stepping into your personal life? Today, Tetiana Holloway returns for a deeper dive into the power of energy management, showing us how to find balance, break stress cycles, and thrive both at work and at home. Tetiana, welcome back to the podcast. How are you?
Oh, welcome, Mark. Thank you so much for inviting me. I am truly well too.
Cool, cool. I know we had a great conversation the last time, and conversation was so good we had to do a part two. And I understand today we're talking about balance. What kind of
Oh,
balance are we talking about?
we are talking about balance that is so important in terms of being to the point of being intimate, meaning intimate with ourselves. And by that, I mean going on a deeper level, understanding what that balance is. Is it a balance of your health? Is it a balance of your mind? Is it a balance of your family life? What balance after all? So I would like to tie it all together today and see where we can get with that.
So before we even dive deep into what the things that one needs to do, why is balance important?
I think about balance as in a daily thing. It's not something that we achieve once and then we're good to go. The thing is about balance and why it's so important is because whenever we as people are truly balanced, everything comes easier to us. The life becomes not only easy, it becomes more vibrant, it becomes more purposeful, whenever we are in a state of balance and we see answers to our daily questions, including the big life questions, much more easily when we are balanced. So it is important.
So are we talking about time balancing? Are we talking about energy balancing? What are we talking about?
I like to look at it as energy balancing. Yes, energy, because energy pretty much, and energy on different levels. Energy, and do I even have energy today? And why don't I have energy to even get up from this bed? What? I'm talking about energy as in a spiritual way, energy as in my energetic being. Am I balanced to the point that I just know what to do, how to do, what's my place, what am I meant to do? So being focused versus being scattered, that is to me a question of balance. Whenever you start to understand on a deeper energetic level, spiritual level, if you call it, a level of just knowing. And that comes with balancing our health, balancing our mind, balancing our body, because the body is the first responder. Body is our first responder in showing us if we are balanced after all.
So let's say I do not have a balance. I don't know that I do not have balance, but you, as a coach for this, knows that. How do I go about identifying where I am in this balance scale? Because probably identification is the first and the most important thing before we try to fix it, right?
Actually, that's a very good question. To me, whenever I'm thinking about my balance, I'm checking with my emotions. I'm checking it with my emotions. Am I content right now? Am I content? Am I happy? Am I joyful? What is it that I'm feeling right now? And when I'm thinking about what I'm feeling, I can get to the answer. If the answer is I'm stressed, if the answer is I am nervous or anything like that, is already a sign of imbalance. But for people who cannot really identify because they're not used to working with their minds, the very first identification could be actually their body, because their body will definitely show if the body's starting to hurt, if the body is very inconvenient. It could be a chronic balance that a person carries throughout their life.
Almost everybody in life then is out of balance because everybody's carrying stress, everybody's carrying pressures of life and kids and jobs and businesses. So, who do we model ourselves after? How do we even go about this?
I would not model ourselves after anybody, but discovering who you truly are, who I truly am. What is my personal balance? What is balance for me? Meaning, when do I feel the most fulfilled, the most productive, the most joyful that I can be, and when do I actually feel good in my own body? I think we should probably talk a little bit more purposeful, more, I don't know, subject wise on the topic of a balance. For example, let's say balancing family life and work life. Oh, that's a juicy topic. balancing family life and work life. It's like right there on the surface. Because if we're talking about entrepreneurship, right? Usually, what do we have? We have very driven people. We don't just step into a business or suddenly get a business unless you guys inherit a business, which is pretty cool. But at the same time, it's even more nightmare than building your own, because whenever you inherit something, oh boy, you have to really dive into something that has been created before you. But anyway, so being an entrepreneur, we have to have so many daily tasks, and those tasks are so demanding. And then being fully immersed in the business because we truly care, then we come home to our family and all we think about is usually the business still. So where's that switch? And then what can often happen is the wife, the husband, the spouse, the kids don't get enough attention. So how do we decide? How do we go from full mode business to full mode family life to then full mode, oh, wait a second, I need to take care of my body too?
That's really interesting. We were just talking about what brings us the most joy, right? Most entrepreneurs will tell you they're obsessed with being successful. They're obsessed with working. So if that's the case and that brings them the most joy, while common sense wise, we understand that balancing home with spouse and all that is important, in a way, we're telling them to walk away from something that gives them the most joy. How do we determine where that line is?
When I see entrepreneurs and when I get to know them a little bit on a deeper level, they say, I care about my business and it brings me the most joy. Sure. But when I look at the daily basis, their daily basis and their daily tasks, what I often see is that same person who says it brings me so much joy is being so stressed out with the activity that they're doing. And to me, stressed out and joy does not go well together. How do you put together? I'm joyful and I'm stressed out. So my answer would be not so much to, it's a general thing. Business is a general thing. I talk about balance in terms of right now in your business, right now. Are you right now joyful? Are you right now having fun with those tasks that you're doing? And sometimes there's a very demanding task, enjoying the fact that you are a bad coach or doing something so well in the moment. Or are we just grudging and dreading those tasks that we have to do? So it all comes down to that feeling that we have in the moment. And that moment is now. That's all we have, pretty much. The moment is now. And so right now, I would also always ask myself, am I balanced right now? What am I feeling? What am I feeling preparing for my daily activities? Am I truly there? Is my body truly there? Where is my mind? Am I really paying attention to what I'm doing? And I will give you a nice example because I am, as an entrepreneur, I love my job. I love those daily tasks. I completely changed the way I do things, as in I do actually enjoy whatever I have to tackle, and things that I used to dread, I actually enjoy right now. But when I come home, and it takes some time, and that's why my workplace is not really that far away from home. So I choose to walk because to me it's so important to take those 5-10 minutes and because when we come back home to family life and I ask people, what is important to you? If your work is so important to you, why bother having a family life? Does it just happens, or we discard that? And so the thing is, whenever we start to clarify what is very important in my life, if I talk about my life, my business, my family, and relationship with myself, those are the three things that are very important in my life. I understand that for that matter, I have to actually invest conscious time in all of those three aspects that are so important. So when I come home, I realize that I want present there. I cannot be there for a long time. Business is so entertaining. It really is. It is. Especially like in my case, it's very creative too. So I lose track of time sometimes. But then I come home and I realize if I'm still thinking about those other things and I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do, I don't give that energy. I don't share that energy with my loved ones. So I'm not really truly there. It's just like a shade of Tetiana. Who is this? It's a shadow. So what I like to do is, because it's so important that I actually did struggle with that. And guys, if you listen to this, you'd probably realize, and if you remember those early stages of building a business, we go all in and we can literally forget about family. Family, what is that? So we come home, and it did happen to me. I remember, quickly building a business. We're going to quickly do that. We're going to just pull in just 3 months, and I'm right there, as promised. First, second, third, 6 months goes by, and I'm telling you, my whole energy is there. And And then I remember clear as day that my spouse starts to really being resentful because there was no energy going that way. My kids told me, they're about 9 and 12 at that time, they told me, Mom, I wish you were home more. And I really enjoy being a mother. Motherhood, it's pretty much everything to me. So that was a slap in the face, literally a slap in the face. And then I realized clearly this whole business thing, it's important and it does take a long time to build. But then I realized whenever I am home, I would like to make my priority to give my conscious energy, very condensed, but conscious energy to that one person, say it's a spouse or children. So I literally try throughout the day, actually make a point to connect with them, spend some 20 minutes, sometimes one-on-one, sometimes just being there, sometimes just listening to them, just really feeling like they're valued, because we do all these things to provide for what I am doing this for you. But you know what a little kid feels? The little kid, especially under 5, when a parent is working all the time and struggling, having challenges, we all have challenges, depending on how a person perceives their challenges. If they're really ruthless and they are so just dreadful, what we have is we come back home to that little kid, and what kid sees is, in my case, mother is emotionally unavailable. Mother seems like she's struggling. I hate that business. I don't ever want to have this, any of that. So we want to instill one role model and we something else on the outcome. So I decided that not only I'm going to enjoy my business, as in enjoy every day, those daily tasks, but I also would like to enjoy my family time. But you know what? There's the thing. There's always a twist. How can I enjoy my family and work life if I personally am not balanced? What is my body doing? Am I feeling great? What nourishes me? What are those things that, believe me, this whole balance thing, the personal balance, spend. They say after you wake up, it's the most important thing whenever you set your goals, whenever you meditate on what you want to become and stuff like that. So I realized I had to actually pull all my schedule, a busy life, so busy, so important. And I cleared all of this for the first 3 hours of my morning so that I could balance. I make sure that I physically connect with my body. For somebody, it's bodybuilding. For somebody, it's yoga. Something that we really on such a deep level, whenever I'm literally talking to my cells, literally programming myself for health, for abundance, for being who I would like to be in this life. I make sure that, because I do have a very hyper nature, I make sure that I slow down. I want to spend that time. I sometimes journal. I want to clear all of this for myself for several hours so that whenever I do start my day, it's very purposeful and full of energy. And that's balance.
That's wonderful. I really like how you put it. And the phrase I think you used were shadow of Tetiana, that when we are not present in the moment, we are just an apparition of the person we really are. I really like that angle. You gave a real world tip about how someone who feels out of balance can possibly start their morning journaling, doing the things that matters, to be able to center themselves, connect with their body, connect with their family members. What are some other things? Let's talk about when we come back from work, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you have a job, a stressful, physically demanding job, or a mentally demanding job. How many of us drive into the driveway, get out of the car, walk into the house, but still have our head at work? Maybe your boss yelled at you. Maybe you had a fight with a coworker. Maybe there's a stressful project coming up that you're behind. How do you leave that at work and just disconnect so that you could possibly attain balance and home and be there for your family members who truly need you and miss you?
True. Yes, do that. I have this mental image coming home because I do talk with a lot of clients throughout the day. And as a very empathetic person, I regurgitate, I think about that. It's still there. So what I do, besides the 10 minutes that I choose to walk, and sometimes it's so funny, sometimes I choose to walk in an adverse weather, be it windy, be it sometimes the rain, because I want to feel alive, truly in my body, truly alive right now, not when the work is done, not when I complete that project, because after this project, there's going to be another project. And we really don't realize that all of this life that's happening is happening right now. So I have this mental image when I come home, or before I come home, I pretend that I'm a chef at the restaurant, okay? Like very fancy chef. Oh, I love that. And so when I come home, I mentally take that apron and put it right there on the hanger. That responsibility, that job thing is done and done. And I hang it there. until if I decide, for example, if I talk to my spouse and we discuss certain things and it's very fun to share, until we share those things. Sometimes we just take some time to connect after a long day, different jobs. So then, yes, then we talk about those things. And if I feel like I'm regaining my balance in the evening, then if a thought comes in and I have this big urge, oh, I just need to work a little bit more, I write this down and put it aside if I decided to spend time with my family. Like, to me, it's that much of a priority. So this is all theoretical. In practice, however, because I'm so honest, sometimes it doesn't work out. And that's the thing. That's the balance. It's not like we achieve it one time and then, hey, we're good. Sometimes I actually have to apologize to my family and say, you know what, mom is crazy. My concert is coming up. I know I'm gonna be a little, I feel whenever I'm in balance, I actually do say that, you guys, I don't want to be a threat to my whole family because I'm a very strong personality. I know that. I know that's why there's the success that comes with that. It's a very strong personality. But I tell them, you know what? I know this. I realize that. I'm so used to doing that. So what I do is I say, could you please give me some more time? Just for me to be alone. And sometimes it's 15 minutes. Or sometimes I say, because I know it, I say, could you please feed me? Just feed me. Because if I am not well fed and I'm very hungry, it can ruin the whole thing. I have no patience. I have no this and that and the other. And you know what? That's the thing. We don't know ourselves to the point. Usually people don't know what drives them. They don't know their physical habits. They don't know what stresses them out in the first place. So they would, in relationships, like, why? You know this feature of your husband or your wife. Why do you go in there? Why are you pushing? So we sometimes that's the thing. We don't know ourselves enough because we are always in the thought, this and that and the other. And very few people can actually take their time, center, and ask themselves, am I doing this? Why am I even reacting like this? Dig apron. That's my answer to you. Little apron. Put it on the wall. Forget
Not
about
on
it.
apron, I really liked that you talked about the fact that not all the time will we be perfect. We won't be able to take that apron off sometimes. And the tool that you shared about just being honest and communicating with your family members, seeking an apology, seeking for a little bit extra time, or telling them exactly what you need that they could perhaps help you with food or whatever else. I think that's the golden nugget here. Because in theory, who doesn't walk around life knowing that they should leave work at work? The apron
Mhm.
analogy is a great analogy, but everybody knows you got to leave work at work, but then everybody struggles with it. And that's what it's all about. Why are we expected to be perfectly present at the house all the time when we can't guarantee that with anything else? There are
Yep.
days when you feel good, and then there are days you have a cold, right? You're not expected to be not sick all your life, right? So expectation that someday something crazy would happen and you wouldn't bring that home with you is crazy. So
Yep.
I love the fact that you shared the walking aspect of things, feeling your body, feeling the weather, feeling the wind, observing things. And I visualize as you just taking that dress coat off on the road and letting the wind and the sun and the snow hit you.
Oh,
On
I love it. I love it. Yes, I will give you this one tiny little thing, and I swear, it's a learned pattern. I was not with it. I'm not that smart. But there's one thing. At some point in time, whenever I'm truly going deep within understanding who I am, those very universal questions, deep questions, and I've always been a deep thinker. So I understood that I absolutely, for my balance, I need nature big time. I'm a nature junkie. I'm such a fan of nature. So I knew that. And the only nature nearby that we actually have a national park. It's about 10-minute driving distance. And what I like about that is it's not very developed, as in you can go on a trail and it's like you're in an enchanted forest. I love that. So I try to time it to the point that my family is still sleeping, and early in the morning I'll go and hang out with the deer. So that's what I do. So I know how beneficial it is for me because I literally come back a different person. It's that centering that no words can describe, this amount of center of walking in the nature element and being able to not think. This is where your ideas come in. This, you come out very different person. But hear me out. The very first several months, and I would go there weekly, several months, my spouse was like, what are you doing there? It's weird. this is just not right. You're supposed to be doing things, this and then the other, several months. And I chose to stick to my guns because I know how much happy life, happy wife, happy life. This is totally true. So I showed him, I come back home. Usually the whole week after that, I'm so driven, I'm so centered that after several months, he would say, Tetiana, about time for you to go to that forest. You just, when we really truly start to know ourselves and what drives us and what helps us, keeps us balanced, your family is actually going to say, you know what, you are so good when you come back. Just go there, just go for some time. And so I would incorporate a lot of those hacks. Those are not the same hacks for everybody, but it's just a constant effort to see in a lot of questions, a lot of analysis. Does it make me feel good? Does this make me feel good? So nature for me and for a lot of other people is a big element. Here's the trick. When we are already in balance, because it's a vital thing, it's just the vibration, it's just not very still. I'm a creative and musical person, so to me, it's a good analogy. So when we are so in, the vibrational imbalance becomes very evident, but what happens is it's so hard to convince ourselves that, okay, I know what to do, but we choose not to because we're already on that level where that's why when a couple fights, they want to fight more and more until they just no longer can. In the moment, it's so hard to just stop and see, okay, that's not going well. So while we know those techniques, while it's not very difficult to just open a book or listen to this beautiful podcast, the choice is ours, ladies and gents. The choice, because to me, sometimes I have a bunch of stuff on my list. I know, because I know that feeling of being imbalanced. I know I have to go there, and I know I can switch things around. So it's just an hour. It's just an hour of my time. It's very close. And so the times when I do, and then I come back, I'm like, I'm patting myself on my head. Oh yes, good job. One more time, good job. Because then the whole day is inspired. I have ideas after ideas. The mind is not going to give you the answers. That intuition, that connection with the source energy, the intuition, you can call it your soul, your whatever it is. It's bigger than us. And so we only can get those answers when we are centered. And we gotta be centered whenever we are just pumped on the mind, asking the same questions all over and over again. And so when that happens, I can only advise one thing. Whenever we're already down there, just down in it's some kind of dumpster of life, we think of notice what your body is doing. Notice where's the tension? Do we hold tension somewhere? Scanning the body. Where is that tension? Sometimes the singers come to me. Sometimes from successful bands, they come to me and they're just full of all of this tension going on. It's like, where's your tension? And that tension is usually connected with the mind clusters, the patterns we go over and over. And so then if we cannot release that, release the body first. Mark, more than anybody, what kind of release of endorphins and all kinds of other hormones we get after a nice workout, really good workout. We come out again a different person. We have different realizations sometimes after that workout. To me, not training for all kinds of marathons, which there was a time that I was pretty serious about that, but I really know sometimes for myself, like I need some really great physical activity right now. If I have anger for some reason, I'm going to ask myself, what is emotion? Where did I experience that first? What does it tie to? Where do I need to release that? You release that through body. Your body's going to tell you a lot of things. And it's probably a time for another question. But if I forget this, I will not be able to live with myself. But if I forget this, we think of our body as there's me and there's this thing that my body, or my body is me. We think about this just something that is completely, we don't even know what that is. But I can tell you, after years and years of research and watching and observing other people, myself, a lot of people, I can guarantee this, that all of the things that happening to our body, all those things that we call illness, to me is just a big imbalance. That comes from those mind clusters. Mind clusters, the mind patterns, that excessive behavior about certain things and pushing our way and not seeing the way out because we are not even connected to ourselves. And so the body then starts to react. It could be a cold. It could be somebody who really does not want to express themselves because they're so afraid and there's this important thing coming up and suddenly they have a sore throat in the middle of nowhere. Ask yourself, what is going on? A lot of the time when I look at my symptoms, and I'm a healthy person, but sometimes I would have all of a sudden a big case of a migraine. And a migraine to me is a blessing, and just because I'm a doer. I lay paralyzed paralyzed for hours and hours. And I realized, oh my goodness, thank you so much. Thank you so much for showing me that I don't have to do all of this struggling and paddling and all of these things when I just needed time for myself. And I forgot, I completely forgot. And so after that case, I would lay there and I come back with so much energy and so much gratitude to the kid. Then it's very easy for me to see. I'm like, oh my goodness, I was this problem, not on the surface and being so into the juicy detail how life is so bad because it's not fair. And so it takes just a little bit to realize it's not important. It really is not important. The important part is right now, are we joyful? Are we living this life? Are we truly ourselves? Are we communicating? What are we doing with this life? So that's why I say your body is going to be the first responder that's going to show you something is not right. If we cannot see it, if we cannot see our mind is very tricky. The body will. Oh,
Love it. Love it. Yeah, it's almost when we are very busy, sometimes we forget to eat. We forget to feed our body. And what you're talking about is essentially feeding your soul. That sometimes when we are so busy, we've forgotten to feed our soul with the things that we need to do to be able to feel alive. So I love it. We talked about walking in the park, connecting with the nature. We talked about disconnecting or trying to disconnect from work the best of your ability, or then asking your family members for some space or other things that you need. What are some other things that you do or that you recommend your students do when they're feeling that cluster of the mind?
I would recommend to find a quiet space. And that quiet space is different from everybody for everybody. To me and to my clients, because mostly my clients are very creative, just like myself. Songwriters, these are musicians, these are people aspiring to get to a new, different creative level. So we get caught up and I get caught up in business all the time. And then I realize, oh my goodness, I am a creative person. What am I doing? It's been months and recorded something since I literally quieted my mind and just went into music without having to think about that. So to me, I find these things that quiet my mind. I either start playing, I realize what is that gives a more vibrant quality of to my life. Not then, today, tomorrow, this week. What is it? Am I looking forward for anything? And so when I get caught up in work things, work never ends. And then I realize it's been a week and I wake up and it's like, I don't really have anything to look forward. That's a really troublesome sign. Whenever we wake up and we live the Groundhog Day, every day is the same day, nothing to live forward to. You know what happens? And this is from 8 to 5, right? Our dear friends. What happens is, why bother live this life? What happens in this case is when we have nothing to look forward to, we become old and boring and lack of energy. There's nothing going on. So I refresh myself to the point to it's either nature, it's going to be creativity, and it's going to be a habit, change of habit, switch things up, drive different way that you normally drive, try out different clothes, different places, different things to get yourself out of the habitual life because it sucks that energy. It makes us live in a trance, most of us, just a trance of daily repetitive things that never change. So to me is obviously body. It could be yoga. It could be something very physically engaging. It could be spending time in the nature. It could be music for me, and definitely some time off from everything. So it could be even a trip somewhere. You guys don't make it a stressful trip. I once, oh my goodness, I have to share this. So I'm, as everybody knows now, a very big fan of nature to the point, like a little bit extreme. Okay, look pretty, but I can be a little extreme. And so I take my family camping. Everybody probably hates that but me, but okay. And we go camping savages, meaning it's a tent camp. It's not a camper, it's a tent. And I live in Oklahoma. Oklahoma is hello tornadoes, hello thunderstorms, hello all kinds of things. And when I go to that nature site, somehow, and I still ask universe, so what's up with that? Somehow, last 5 times we went, we literally were stuck in a thunderstorm. And I'm telling you, it's not the most pleasant experience. And that's how relentless I am. I still came back. And so by the last time we did that, before I actually quit this shenanigans, because I'm like, obviously just change the time, don't go in the summer. The last time, it was interesting that my family didn't even react. They're like, okay, we know the protocol, that's all right. You know, gather things, animals, everything. And so then I decided, you know what, that is not not restful at all. For me, maybe I either go by myself or we choose a different activity that because a lot of the times, hey, let's have a vacation, and it becomes so stressful that it's really I need rest from rest. That could be my advice, right? So things I do. But the thing is that I would like to really capitalize on. We gotta start paying attention to what we are, what drives us, what are those daily things that actually we don't even do anymore. And it's so detrimental for us to not be ourselves. And so I realized some ridiculous things that I like. I never knew I liked the ridiculous things, as in, for example, it's gonna sound strange. When I want for everybody to leave me alone and I want to get in the zone to get, and nothing else works. I already listed stuff, right? Nothing else works. And I want to get into the zone of shutting down my mind and really reset. I could take up on a very short but rewarding project, such as I build furniture, like assemble furniture, because it's like it should be a process that is very engaging, but something that you like. If you don't like assembling furniture, it would be a disaster, like literally. So it only, but say. And then after this very intense project with an obvious result, because it's right there, the result is here, and I'm pretty good at that. So, hey, I know it's going to be good. I come out of this, hey, that's a sense of accomplishment. I didn't even think a thing of my regular activities and regular list of things. And what happens is whenever we change our habits, literally just happened the other day. I was very engaged in the thought of how do I get the group together, coaching, right? And where do I find clients? Where do I find clients? And I literally decided to change stuff up. I went to a different store than I normally do for my coffee. I disconnected from the things. I decided to do things very differently. I found the client on the street. Literally, they started approaching me. I was in a completely different mental space. So experiment. What is your mental space that you can try and find that nourishes us? What is it that nourishes us? It's different for everybody, but there are some common grounds, such as, say, nature. Even for those who don't like the nature, you'd be surprised how much walking can do for a person. Just walking.
Yeah, I love to walk. I love to walk. What I don't love is camping. I hate camping.
Ugh, I know, right?
One time, we'll edit this out of the podcast, but one time, my best friend from college, he was getting married. And for the bachelor party, he wanted to go camping. And I was like, I can't even say no. So I went camping. We played games and whatnot. Everybody went to sleep. I got up, got in my car, drove home, slept home, drove back 5 o'clock in the morning, and went back in.
Yeah.
That's how much I hate camping. Getting back to the podcast, one of the things that I actually do, you talked about getting into that empty mental space. And that was a great thing that you said, which is that trying to do activities in a different order or in a different way, driving to a place, a different way, getting coffee at a different location. What I like to do on a daily basis sometimes, depending on how stressed out I am, if I want to be alone, I love to cook. So you talked about playing music with your students. I don't know how to play anything. So I love to cook. So I'll spend a lot of time just making really good, delicious. One of the reasons why I got so overweight, but I love to cook. I also love to do house chores. So I will do the dishes, I will do the cleaning, I will do this because it takes me away from that mental space of being focused on the problem that I'm trying to solve in my business or in my life. And the physical motion of sometimes doing the chores or the creative energy needed, cook something masterful, takes you out of that zone. So I love it. These are very good tips. Anything
Beautiful.
else that you would like to add?
Yes, I would like to add one thing. When we do those things, cooking, for example, or to me, even washing the dishes by hand, I would like to do this thing. It's an exercise, but if we do that on a very consistent basis, it really grows. When we do those things, let's focus on doing those things. So when we don't have a habit of focusing on what you're doing versus focusing on the thoughts that are at work or elsewhere, solves the problem. Really solving the problem that is not solving until we get out of the space of the problem itself on the surface versus deep down there on the surface. So learning to just do what you do and thinking about what you're doing with a lot of gratitude, a lot of appreciation. For example, when I wash my dishes or when you cook, and sometimes I actually, it sounds like I don't like to eat or cook. I like to cook. Not very often, but sometimes I do actually like that. And that's when I do. That's when I do cook. I really enjoy that. And when I do, I think of how my family is going to enjoy it. I think about all these ingredients and how masterful that is, and think about the flavors, what flavors go well together. And so it takes me to the universe of pure pleasure. It's pleasure in such simple daily activities. Sometimes when I want, just like these days, when I would like to really reset, I take up on, I don't know, remodeling, painting, just something that can give me a instant result in like several days, for example. So not dragging projects several days. I'm a go-getter, I'm a doer, so to me it's important to see a result most of the time. When I do, I think about how beautiful that is that I'm creating, what that creation is right now. All of this, I notice, and we start to notice that with our body. We notice how the water is warm. Am I comfortable? Is it convenient for me to stay here? Am I comfortable in these shoes? Am I comfortable barefoot? See, all those, it seems like those questions are not very important, but when we prioritize those things, such as comfort, for example, such as really noticing if we are centered, if we're comfortable, what happens is we start noticing when we talk to people and say we have a trouble saying no, right? Having a trouble saying no to somebody. They're good people. We don't want to offend them. It's a very common thing. What happens is when we have this trouble to saying no, that can take us to the imbalanced state in no time. No nature is going to be even compete when we cannot say no to certain things. And when we don't put together, oh, my body is not feeling well right there at this moment. And so we start to prioritize. I can, sure, say yes and suffer after that and commit to something that I didn't want to commit. Or I can find a way to still notice and say no or say yes in a form that we respect their boundaries, but also respect our boundaries, respect the rights to just be the way we want to be versus committing to something that we really don't want to. And then that comes to a relationship aspect, and that could be hours and hours. What I'm trying to say here is we need to really pay attention. What makes us comfortable, what makes us joyful, not tomorrow, but in this moment. And so, yes, the cooking, oh my goodness, Mark, that was a fabulous example. See, so I think creatively as a pure creation, but a lot of people, they're really wired differently, but everybody can find this moment in the activities that they would like to. For example, crocheting, not a fan, really not a fan. Puzzles, sure, a little bit boring at this point, but we can. The interesting part is whenever a lot of my coaching clients, they start with not knowing what they like. They don't know. They are tied into this is what I do. This is what my life is. And they don't even know. It's especially important for a woman in the family because woman gets the nourishment of being that flower what she is. And it ain't no flower if that flower doesn't pay attention to everything. If that person or that woman, for example, put my makeup on, enjoying the fact that, oh my goodness. And that's one of the reasons about looking at the body, oh, I'm fat. And so that's what we see. If we were to train for something, if that thought even comes to our mind, oh, I'm fat, get nowhere. Programming differently, seeing that beauty, nurturing that beauty. And then suddenly, it's one of the things that I would like to achieve in my life. I achieve them mentally first. And it takes time building that personality that I would like to be. And it takes time. Sometimes it takes months. I like to get into all kinds of situations in terms of, oh, I'm making this uncomfortable, but I really want it. And so the interesting part is, after some time, when I've grown into it mentally, I start seeing confirmation from people that are reflecting this to me. And it's interesting because to get into that mental space, to like it, I have to like that new person that I'm becoming. And to be able to become that new person, we got to change some habits. And those habits, like I said, truly a fan of joy. So everything that I do, I check with myself. Does it bring joy? And if it doesn't, but it's a part of me. For example, I used to dread sales. Oh, horrible. Making people buy from me. Oh, horrible. No, only to realize it could be a very joyful process and joyful habit. Because when we shift the accent from trying to sell people something and go into how can I help them solve their problem, we actually feel proud of ourselves. Oh my goodness, I did such a good thing today. I helped somebody, seeing clearly. And it could be about any gruesome activity that we have to do at work. It's all about the perspective. So when we change that perspective, it becomes more and more joyful. And when it becomes more and more joyful, we are more aligned, we are more intuitive. And when we are more intuitive, we're listening to it. Those things just start to happen. That's that synchronicity. When it just starts to happen, and don't we enjoy riding that wave?
Love it. Being joyful, being purposeful, being intentional, being in the moment for your family or for whatever you're doing, being part of nature. Thank you so much, Tetiana. It was wonderful talking to you today.
You're so welcome. It was beautiful.